Hi, everybody. I hope everybody's doing okay out there. Winter seems to be over in New York, and I'm just thrilled to death that it wasn't a bad one. These are three case histories from my files that were chosen because they represent the essence of the earth element in love relationships. Please keep in mind, I'm discussing the earthy temperament, meaning those who have this element prominent in their birth charts. The sun sign, moon sign, rising, Mercury, Venus, Mars positions, even a prominent Saturn, if you're dealing with Earth, will do it. I am not saying that these examples represent all the Virgos, Capricorns, and Taurians on the planet. Okay, case history number one, the Capricorn man. He was a very earthy Capricorn, meaning he had a predominance of earth signs in his astrological chart, usually the signature of someone who's very conservative. She was an Aries who just emerged from the breakup of a significant 7-year live-in relationship. Her usual self-esteem was temporarily shattered by the abandonment of her fiancé, which came as a shock, a big shock. How big? The wedding invitations were already mailed, and she had just gone to the final fitting for her wedding dress. Anyway, Capricorn heard the sad story from mutual friends, and he remembered her. He also remembered being very attracted to her. His Mars at birth was in the sign of Aries, the signature of an instant physical attraction. He waited a few months and gave her a call, hoping to see her again. She accepted, and they had a good rapport between them. After 6 months of dating, he presented her with a beautiful engagement ring, which she accepted happily. Her new fiancé was superior to the old one on all levels, and her feelings for him were genuine and strong. In a few months, they had a big wedding, and everyone who knew her and loved her was overjoyed on her behalf for the positive turn of events. Capricorn had his own business, which was doing very well, and she was working with him at the office side by side for the past few months. However, Aries truly did not know or understand the man she had married. She never acknowledged how traditional he was and had no clue that he was willing to tolerate a great deal in a marriage except allow his wife to wear the pants. It sounds quaint, I know, archaic even, but Earth is Earth, and all three Earth signs, regardless of their modality, cardinal, fixed, or mutable, have an old-fashioned streak. Earth sign men usually miss what they call the good old days, which for us women meant unpaid servitude. Meanwhile, since the Aryan self-esteem had fully recovered, overnight she became bossy. Capricorn felt as if he were seeing her for the first time, and he felt deceived. Aries never deceived him. He had entered her life when she was a disillusioned and wounded sparrow. However, the ram had fully reemerged, and now they were butting heads. Cappy saw himself as the total and absolute boss. When he gave an order, others obeyed. Case closed. Aries would start arguing her case and her belief that her business decisions were the way to go, the smart move, the correct move. Capricorn was completely thrown by the idea that she felt business moves were their decisions and not exclusively his decision. His earth sign chauvinism that Aries did not even know was there began to show with statements from him such as, "Who asked for your opinion? I made a decision, and your role is to carry it out, period." He felt she was not allowed to express her advice unless he explicitly asked for it. He yelled, "The problem here is that you want to be me. You are not me. Start your own business and run it any way you choose, but this is my baby." Unfortunately, Aries overstepped her appointed boundaries and began to go against his orders and do what she wanted to do because she was totally convinced that she was right. Capricorn responded by ordering her off the premises. In other words, he fired her. She stayed at home, seething, and never tried to make amends. Instead, she went into a state of rebellion, no longer making dinner or doing any of the usual wifely activities, not being home when he got home, things like that. Capricorn faced his mistake straight up and dealt with it effectively and efficiently, while Aries was waiting at home, convinced he would come around to her way of seeing things, apologize, and beg her to return. Instead, unbeknownst to her, he began to close out the business and then declared bankruptcy. He then reopened the business under a new name, putting his mother down as the owner of the business. He moved back to live with his family temporarily to regroup. Aries was surprised at his abandonment, and even more surprised when he served her with divorce papers. But the biggest blow of all was when she heard he was seeing someone new, an earth sign like him, who was to become his new wife a couple of years down the road. Case history number 2, Taurus in love. He was a painter in his mid-20s, obsessed with a beautiful Tahitian girl he met while on vacation. He returned to visit her twice more and tried to persuade her to marry him. Her family wouldn't let her, he told me. Besides, why should she leave home when she lives like a princess? When I heard from him next, he had already met someone new, an American girl, who had the same interest in sex that he had. They were sexually very compatible, and to him, that was everything. It made me recall what a teacher once told me. Where the sex is good, there the Taurus remains. Scorpio usually gets all the sex press, but Scorpio is more concerned with the psycho-spiritual impact of the sex act, the energy exchange behind it, and the feelings of power and control that emotionally regenerate. But when it comes to basic earthy sensualism, Taurus is it. "I like it to last a long time," he said, "and so does she, a Pisces with her moon in Taurus. We start with a picnic of finger food and wine, and we feed each other in the nude. Gradually we move on to every bit of sensuality you can imagine. We make an entire day of it every Saturday." I did a chart comparison and a composite chart on them. The synastry between them was superlative, meaning mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and sexually compatible. On top of that, the composite chart, which depicts the relationship itself and what will transpire in that relationship, had a stellium of planets well aspected in a grand trine in the 7th house of marriage, meaning marriage was the purpose and destiny of this union. "So, I did the right thing when I bought an engagement ring?" he asked. "That's the way it looks," I replied. We said goodbye, and I wished him a ton of luck. Case history number 3. A Virgo woman. I didn't like the pinky ring he was wearing, she announced. When he asked me out, he wasn't wearing it. I didn't see it until he picked me up for our first date. Then I spent the whole evening irritated. It really bothered me. Yes, I'm sure it did, I thought to myself. Just like all the others really bothered you and were knocked dead coming out of the gate without even realizing it. She continued. On top of that, he had the nerve to ask me for a second date. Can you believe it? I told him I would text him and let him know. Yeah, fat chance. Maybe he was under the impression you were having a good time, I offered. Why would he think that? I just sat and listened to him all during dinner. I hardly said a word, she added. This particular Virgo was in her late 30s and had 2 divorces behind her and the recent breakup of a live-in situation. I asked her if she was able to clarify exactly what she was looking for in a partner. I was sorry I asked. She proceeded to give me a lengthy and very detailed list of what she required from a mate in a long-term situation. I listened patiently, and when she was finished with her do's and don'ts, I told her what I thought. Okay, I said, so you're searching for a man who doesn't exist. I thought Virgos were practical. I am being practical. I know myself and I know what I can and cannot tolerate, she said. According to your chart, learning tolerance is a major life lesson. So this tendency has been going on for at least a few lifetimes. Otherwise, it wouldn't be so strongly represented here, I said. What tendency? She asked defensively. Intolerance, I replied. Look, you have the gift of a laser-like analytical ability, but it should be directed inward as well as outward, I said. The metaphysical path is about awareness, self-awareness above all else, which leads to self-empowerment. The astrological chart is a tool for that awareness, giving you a map of all that's conscious and unconscious. But Virgo was offended and never returned. I heard from other clients that verbally, she tore me to pieces.